embrace the magical side of life, where anything is possible and the infinite is accessible to all? Let's have a conscious conversation about what's going on in the world, in your life, and your relationship from the expanded perspective of your soul. The path to awareness begins and ends in the heart. So let's take it there, one step at a time, and learn to cultivate magic in your life every single day. In each episode, we share a collective space in which we discover the unique facets of our own magic and embody our superhuman qualities by humbly exploring how it's super simply to be human. Hosts Kaí and Dell co-create a magical experience to remind you that you are magical as fuck. Now, be unleashed. This is our daily magic.
I'm like, how long is the black screen? Welcome, everyone, to another exciting episode of our Daily Magic, in which we're going to be present to a magical conversation to show the potentiality of what can happen when you allow your magic to be unleashed and cultivated. My name is Dell, and
I'm Kaí.
And today we have a magical unicorn.
Unicorn alert. I couldn't wait to use that. And I have the honor and the pleasure of introducing Monica Jayne. So, Monica Jayne is an activist for social awakening and justice, genderqueer, pansexual, certified in Queer Competency, the Erotic Blueprints, yoga, authentic relating, and accelerated evolution, and also a recovering Catholic girl and adult child of an alcoholic. From 21 years of finding her way to her own truth, studying directly with magnificent teachers like Brené Brown, oh yeah, she developed a rad framework to support you to quickly release the bondage of all the false beliefs, perceptions, shaming, repression, and oppression that were given by society, culture, religion, and family, so that you can return to the confidence, the happiness, wholeness, and authenticity of who you truly are. So she's worked with thousands of folks across 6 continents, aiming to make the world a safer and happier place by returning us all to our inner knowing and authentic truth. Monica Jayne is a trailblazer of unabashed badassery, TM, and the modern day Mr. Rogers for adults, teaching us the life skills for relationships, communication, confidence, and fulfillment we were never taught. Dang. What an intro. Welcome.
Thank you.
And hello to everyone who's joining us. Hey, Shadow Cat. And Kitty and Garrett and Yael.
Welcome. So what grabbed my attention from there is numerous things. But the one thing I love is the modern day Mr. Rogers.
I love that you love that, because I love you.
So let's dive in, because your journey and what you were able to overcome is something that I know that a lot of people in our audience may be going through that right now. So the best way to learn more of how you overcame it is to hear the story of how you overcame it. So,
Oh my
please share
goodness.
your magic.
Yeah. I'm going to have to ask for 1 second to lean over here and grab my socks because my feet are freezing to death. So,
Oh yeah.
one moment.
Oh yeah. Always got the interlude.
That'll give you a little snapshot of this racy poster back here.
Hello.
Vulvas and some luscious thighs. Okay. So there's like a lot of different topics of overcoming. And I didn't realize how much until, I started coaching, and over the years I've, it's just become more apparent. So I will focus on maybe one, and if one comes up, we'll focus on that too. But basically, I grew up in a cow pasture in Wyoming, in an area full of Mormon culture, and I was growing up Catholic, and so it was like 95 or 99% Mormon, and then there were a few other religions around. And through that, I was, in very conservative area, cowboy culture, Mormon culture. Being a Catholic girl amongst a bunch of Mormons meant that I was like the slut of the town, and rumors were spread, restraining orders were necessary, getting chased down by cars, being threatened to be beat up every day in school. Once I got to high school was like my norm. So that was my introduction to like sex and sexuality. And before that, growing up, my mom would say things like, when we got unsolicited attention, she would say things with a stone face like, don't react, don't give them what they want. And then when I was watching like the ABC nighttime movie with my parents from 8 to 10 p.m. on a weekday, it was such a treat to be allowed to stay up for. If I could stay for the 9 to 10 o'clock hour, that meant that the racy sex scene happened, but it was like network television. So, how racy could it be in the 80s and 90s? So anyway, my mom would cover my eyes when that would come on. And then if it got too noisy, she would lay my ear on her thigh and put her other hand over my other ear. And then I could like come up when, it was safe. So after, all of this, it was probably about 13 years into those 21 years we mentioned in the bio, I realized what had happened to me. What had happened those experiences was that I learned, as turn on arousal started to rise up in my body and give me that magical feeling and sensation of, ooh, I like this, I was taught to stamp it down, repress it, act like it's not happening, don't respond. And that was detrimental in a lot of ways. One, I was anorgasmic. I had sexual activity since I was 14, penetrative, like penis and vagina sexual activity since I was 17. And I didn't know if I was experiencing orgasm because it didn't feel like everybody else talked about. So that's a myth that I've come to know is not true. Like when you don't experience orgasm, you feel like everybody else in the world does and you're broken. It's like so not true. The percentage of women before the age of 35 or something, don't quote me on this, but it's like 70% or something don't actually experience climax. So anyway, what I realized through all of my like study and work on this was that that biological conditioning or physiological conditioning in my body meant that I couldn't hear my turn on and arousal. And once I was united with it through all of this work that I've done, I found out and formulated that our turn on and arousal is the light, the compass that shines a light down the path to that which is a yes for us, that which is magical for us, wired uniquely. We're not all turned on by the same things, right? So I had been disconnected to my yes and my no. That's why, plus all of the conditioning of my conservative upbringing, that's why I went to college after high school, because you're supposed to. I majored in business because you major in business or engineering, not dance, not theater, not art, not singing, any of the things that I would go to college for if I could go back today, now that I know who I am and what gives magic and light to my life. I climbed the corporate American ladder because that's what you're supposed to do. I bought the house with the 3 bedrooms and the den and the great room and the 3-car garage because that's what makes you happy. I pursued trying to get married in a like regular relationship because that's what makes you happy. And then one day I was looking around and surrounded by all of this, and I was like, why am I so, do we swear or not on this show? Because okay. Why am I so fucking unhappy? Why? I have everything you're supposed to have. My house is decorated like better homes and fucking gardens. What is going on? And I found out, through like 3 years after that is when the gates started opening, and I recovered from anorgasmia and started having climaxes and multiple orgasms and stuff. And I realized, holy smokes, our world teaches us that turn on and arousal is dangerous, provocative, inappropriate, not okay. And we're not taught that our turn on and arousal, like right now, I'm looking out this window. I'm in LA in this like snazzy home on a hill. There's like this steep incline and all these beautiful trees and flowers, and the morning sunlight is like dappling through all of it. That is turn on. That is arousal. What happens in my body, like it's expansive and life-giving. And what I was taught, and what we're all taught in various ways, is don't. And so we get messed up and can't hear what is life-giving and what's an actual yes for us and what is life-taking, because we're taught to be appropriate and behave and be people pleasers and, you know, stomp over our desires. So anyway, that's the thing that I wanted to bring to the table, I guess, for the origin story today, because what it's come to is a term, the unabashed badassery, and also authentic evolution. Like, how do we evolve authentically according to how we're wired to be pleased in this lifetime and experience joy? Because that's, like you point to love. Love is what it's all about. Turn off and stuffing down our turn on and arousal is the farthest thing from love we could ever do. And we are all zombie robots walking around evolving inauthentically in this lifetime. And I'm here to change that. The end.
Or the beginning.
Right? Yeah, I like that. The beginning.
I'd love to know, in what kind of context do you get to be an advocate for people? Because there's so many different arenas out there, especially now digitally. You know, there's so many different offerings. I'm like, well, how do you get to step into the space for people?
What is so cool is that just by being myself, I do that. And I didn't realize the impact of that. Like, all of us, when we are ourselves, we give others permission. Oh, I could behave that way, or I could do that. And so my main influence is when I speak. So this is somewhat that arena. Not somewhat, this is that arena. And social media. And then I did before COVID 2 to 8 live events in person per month. And so I don't know when that will be coming back, but hopefully it will. And then my pride and joy is private, customized, one-on-one coaching so that we can really dig in. I like programs as an introduction, but I did that myself for like 17 of those 21 years. And it was when I finally decided that I was worth the investment of like the one-on-one, like someone just focused on me, not a big group program that's like generally to help everybody, that I catapulted into like, oh, okay, now I see. So is that the answer to the question you asked? Speaking, lots of podcasts, group stuff, one-on-one coaching, and live events when that can happen.
Yeah. I'd love to ask a follow-up question too.
Mm-hmm.
Those ways that you're communicating your message to people are so powerful. And also there's like these categories of situations where this type of liberation has the opportunity to exist. For instance, in birth, there's all of these different combinations of new paradigms that are coming about, and some people just don't know how to deal with them. And the same thing in parenting, and the same thing in in high schools with teenagers. Like there's just all of this new terrain, and I'm curious where you like to play the most.
I do have a place in my heart and soul to work with the like 13 to 17 or 18-year-olds, because that's when my life got really, really hard. Basically, I got to high school, and because I was Catholic, I hadn't been seen by all the Mormon boys yet. And, my social conditioning wants me to say, and at risk of sounding vain, but screw that, busting free from those paradigms. I was fucking hot. I was a hottie toddy, and they hadn't seen me before, so I was fresh meat. They call us freshmen that, fresh meat. And it's so silly. It's like the Varsity Blues or something, like a sequel to Varsity Blues movie. The captain of the captain of the football team, the quarterback of the football team, was a senior, and he asked me, a freshman, to the homecoming dance in the midst of one of the many intermittent breakups with the captain of the drill team. And then the captain of the cheerleading team caught wind of this, and that's where it started. With her just railing into me. She caught me in the hallway and was like, "This is going to be a lot of F-bombs." She says, "Listen here, you fucking freshman bitch. If you fuck with me or fuck with any of my friends, I'm going to fucking come for you." I was like, okay. And then after that, every day, threatened to be beat up, threat after school, chased down by cars, like just all of this stuff. So mine was very like scary. And so I have a special place in my heart for that age range. And what my actual trajectory, I believe, is by doing these higher end custom one-on-one coaching packages, I'm creating the space and the income to be able to just give that to that age range. And circling back to the modern day Mr. Rogers, so if people don't know, because sometimes they don't, Mr. Rogers was a beautiful human, Fred Rogers. If you haven't seen the come out in the documentaries about him, I highly recommend. And he basically talked about the difficult things that we always still to this day say, why isn't this taught in school? Why isn't emotional intelligence taught in school? Why isn't feeling your feelings in the first place taught in school? Why isn't communication and relationships taught in school? So he taught children through puppeting and like costume people coming in and different things like this, how to be a human, how to human to children. And I grew up in that era, and that's what happens when folks work with me. Is like, it's the rite of passage into adulthood that they never received, to learn how to function in sexuality, relationships, communication. So basically, I have a very broad psychographic rather than demographic, and it's the people who have done a ton of self-development or maybe just a little, and they're not getting where they want to be because it's all intellectualized, and we've got to get into our bodies. So I work a lot with your nervous system and embodiment and the somatics. So I drop all that awesomeness that you've learned in your self-development like down into your body. And the age range tends to be between like 25 and 94 was my eldest client who had never had an orgasm before and did by working with me.
Wow. Was it like a volcano eruption?
I wasn't there, but she said it was incredible. And then she was able to, after that.
I love that. I love the fact of you being able to help women to get to that point who haven't experienced that before. I forgot what I was watching a documentary on Netflix about that. Who's a part of it? Oh, wasn't Gwyneth Paltrow? She was doing all these different things with her work crew, and one of them they actually went to like a woman who did the same thing. Remember her? Remember that lady, the old like badass lady?
Betty Dodson, probably.
Yeah. She was pretty cool. She's like, yeah, what? I make sure I do that all the time. I make sure I climax every day, multiple times a day. You don't remember that? Like, and she was like pretty old. So like to hear somebody who actually embodied that and like really expressed just how important that is for that release. We all need a release. So,
yeah. Betty Dodson was a pioneer, and she would gather circles of women and guide masturbation so that people could learn their bodies. And it was like, probably unheard of in the Western white world. This was happening in India and other places, thousands of years ago, and has been the whole time. Maybe, I don't know that part, but it's not new, but it's new to like the Western side of culture. And she was definitely like a huge pioneer to help us recover from purity culture and puritanical bullshit that represses all of us from so many things in our lives, including orgasm.
Yeah, it makes me curious. I definitely want to hear your perception as well. And it's pretty much in the Western world, us. It's like, why do we try to like hold back and stop things that are naturally here, but inevitably you do it anyway? But it's like, what is that?
Yeah, it's terrible because we do it anyway. So like, why are we all hiding it from each other?
Yeah.
This is like a long history lesson, and I have to point to Alok Vaid-Menon, who is an amazing transhuman activist, scholar, academic, just amazing. And I've learned a lot through their research about this history. And so I'm going to attempt to share it, but if you really want to know, follow Alok on social media, because they offer all of these book reports from their academic research, and it's incredible. But basically, it's a long history that comes down to all the way back when Christianity fractured humans from God and made us separate. And in doing that, took like orgasm is a connection to that, like that which is outside. I mean, it's outside and inside of us, depending on who you ask. But it's like a connection to this energy that, like, we don't have unless we're in that orgasmic state. And here's something I'm going to sidebar for a second. Orgasm and climax are used interchangeably, and I think that's unfortunate because people equate orgasm only to the big climax, the big eruption. Orgasmic energy is happening when you're really enjoying interviewing someone, when I'm really enjoying, being on a podcast, when I'm really enjoying the food that I'm eating. Yesterday, I went on a walk and I was like, oh, I saw a pomegranate bush for the first time in my life. And it was just so beautiful. And the way the sun was on it, it was somewhat golden hour. And so like the pomegranate, like the different colors of the reddy pinkiness, like kind of like my lips on the pomegranates was just like so luscious and delicious. Like seeing that is orgasmic energy. That is orgasm. So people can walk through their whole day in orgasmic energy and be connected to this divinity, to this energy that's greater than like the physicality, the gross, body of a human. So it started there. It started when it was like, you don't get divine messages, you don't know anything, that's not you, that's outside of you, blah blah blah. And then there's the damnation of sexuality and eroticism and acts of sex. And I mean, it came over to the Western world with all of the colonizers making wrong and instilling fear in the indigenous cultures for their rituals and their connection to divinity and their living and knowing that they were divine. And then that infiltrated, these continents, the Americas, and here we are. And that's like a very crude, quick overview. But basically the root is the fracture of you are not God, you are not connected to God. Like, forget it. God's out here and an authority, and you are nothing.
Yeah. And now you
like,
need to
no magic. You are not magical. You are not a unicorn.
And then they added the middleman.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Lots of middlemen. Mm-hmm. And men, like just the lens of man, manness.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're the cool thing is I feel like we're living in a really awesome time. And I think back to, not think back because I was living, but I think back to like in the 70s, the sexual revolution and stuff. Like, was it the same or similar to how we're all feeling now? Or was it, was it different? Are we at a whole new level? Somebody's really excited about the lesson sexuality. That's awesome.
And make sure if you guys have any questions as well, ask away as well. We definitely would love to have you guys included with this magical co-creation conversation going on.
Yeah. And those questions, if there are a lot of history, I'm going to point to the experts. And if you wanted to ask questions about like your current self, that's where my magical unicorniness lies.
Unicorniest.
I'd love to ask something. It's more like, just kind of like share what it is that I heard. And if you've ever heard of this too, that would be really amazing to verify. That also this energy exists in nature. When we talk about like Oregon, that this is also what has the skies produce rain. So it's like, I've heard that this energy exists in the atmosphere as well. And it's, I guess, being created or co-created or channeled through us.
That's really cool. I actually have a friend who uses Oregon Night, I think, as their Instagram handle. And I didn't. So you're telling me something awesome. and he actually makes those pyramids. So I don't know that. Now I'm like, ooh, I need to have a conversation with him. Teach me some awesome magical things.
Yeah. So can you talk about the relationship of unabashed badassery to this amazing concept, that we've been talking about? Is this a particular part of your practice? Is it your brand? How does it relate?
Yeah. So the word, okay, you're reminding me of something awesome. In 2016, I was sitting in an apartment on the island of Malta, having for the first time seen the online course for the Erotic Blueprints, which I later became certified in, And that is one. The Erotic Blueprints is a framework that, like the love languages, tell you how you are wired for turn on and pleasure. So the love languages teach you how you're wired to receive love and feel loved. And the Erotic Blueprints teach you how you're wired to receive arousal and pleasure. So basically, it demystifies sexuality, like sexual preference and sexual experience, because so I had just watched it. And what I learned that day was I am not broken, and there's nothing wrong with me, and I'm not womaning incorrectly my entire life. The reason why I thought that is because everything we see on media, I don't like to use absolutes. Most of the things we see on the media, meaning billboards, magazines, TV shows, movies, music videos, all the media, social media, is that women or people who are born with vaginas, and I'm not saying everybody born with a vagina identifies as a woman. I actually identify as a genderqueer woman these days. But everyone born with a vagina, their sexual preferences and relationship preferences are supposed to be sensual. They love roses. They love romance, swans on the lake, rose petals, massages, tons of foreplay, and sensual stuff. Silk, velvet. I don't know if I said candles yet. I've never been turned on by that stuff. It's nice, it's pretty, but it's not. So I have this scale, and it actually is a modified scale from the creator of the Erotic Blueprints. And my scale is 1 to 5. 1 is no, I don't like that, and I never want to experience it again. And it could be a sex act, or it could be, a vacation somewhere or a particular view. So, and then number 2 is nah. Number 3 is it's pleasurable. Not everything that's pleasurable is arousing. So 4 is it's pleasurable and arousing, and 5 is this could be or is on its way to orgasmic experience. And so it was pleasurable. It was a 3 for me, all those things. And I wasn't like climaxing and getting off on all of this stuff. And I would actually kind of laugh a little bit when someone I was on a date with would set all that stuff out. I would laugh, cry because I was broken, and I would laugh because like, oh, you're just following the script. So I had just watched the Erotic Blueprint online course and found out there are 5 ways that people are wired for turn on and arousal. And I just don't fall into that category. I fell into 3 of the 5 that women aren't associated with typically in the media. 1, I think it will make sense that like we do equate women with, and that's more like energetic. It's the energetic blueprint, where we're turned on by energy and presence, and like someone paying like their full attention to us, just like a blanket of their attention on us. Also like eye contact, intellectual conversation, space, rather than the sensual snuggle cuddle, like every inch, every like surface of your body, like intertwining and touching, like that's sensual. Energetic is like space. No wonder I wasn't like being turned on by these massages and this sensual stuff that people were doing. I'm wired for space, damn it. And then the other ones that I associated with are kinky. And that's anything that's taboo for you. It's not necessarily like BDSM in this Erotic Blueprint framework, unless BDSM is something that's taboo for you, that feels forbidden, but turns you on. So it's like anything. It's like smacking your mouth while you eat your food. If that turns you on, but you know that like it's taboo and other people will judge you for it, that's a kinky blueprint aspect of yourself. So anyway, the last one that I associated with was shapeshifter, which is I like all of them. And so the 2 that I did not say, I kind of alluded to the sensual one. Yeah. And then the sexual one, which all men are associated with, not all, again, 99% of the time on media, men are associated with being sexual. So I'm not broken is where I landed after watching that. And I can't remember the question and why I'm telling you this. What was the question that I'm answering? We don't know.
You answered a lot. And what I got from that is something that got me curious too.
Oh, I know.
Go ahead.
It was Unabashed Badassery.
Yeah.
So what happened is it was like an exorcism of shame out of my body. Finally, like free at last, like, what? I'm allowed to be turned on in a way that I don't see on all the media? I'm not broken. There's nothing wrong with me. Turn on and arousal exists outside of sex acts, and I can have that if I like cater to my blueprints. Oh my God. Oh my God. It was like the life-changing, pivotal, climactic moment of my life thus far with regard to sexual and erotic liberation. And so I sat down and I was like, what is this? What is this? And I was like, I don't like the word shame or unashamed because it has the word shame in it. Like, that's not what we're talking about here. And so I started looking up synonyms, and unabashed came out. And at the time, I was heavily involved with yoga and Sanskrit. And I sent a message to Lauren Roche, who is like a Westerner, who's like an expert, I think, in Sanskrit. Absolutely an expert in the Vedas. If you've the Radiance Sutras is a book of Lauren Roche's. So I send him a message on private messages on Facebook and ask, like, how do you do unabashed in Sanskrit? Like, I want to know. And what was so interesting is I found out that in the culture, shame is like a good thing. It's considered a good thing. And now, again, this is probably some history lesson I'm not qualified to like share. But what was interesting is unashamed. He's like, it doesn't really exist in that language. I was like, whoa, interesting. Like culturally, that makes a bunch of sense. It's like shame is good, unashamed is bad. So anyway, unabashed came up, and then I'm like, I just love words, and wordsmithing and badassery kept coming out of my mouth. So Unabashed LLC is my company. Unabashed Badassery is what, like, you become a certified unabashed badass in my through my programs. And what that means is you just are unashamedly yourself, and that you drop people pleasing, you drop like trying. The thing that I was trying to do, be all the things for the American dream that you're supposed to be, and like listen to yourself and find out what you truly want, need, and desire. And what that's evolved into is authentic evolution, which is my main offering, which is identifying all of the things that you were taught. So we're tying it all together. This brings in like the Mr. Rogers stuff as well. So basically what I do is it's like I guide and hold space for people to give themselves the choice and permission to be authentically themselves, to evolve into their authenticity. And so what we do, the first step of that is looking at all the things that you were taught and that you learned from society, culture, religion, and family on who you should be, how you should be in any and all aspects of your life. So we could concentrate on sexuality and relationships and communication. We can concentrate on money and career and lifestyle. We can concentrate on whatever you want to evolve authentically. And we look at everything you were taught, because that's typically the zombie robot script that we're operating from, regardless if we're actually doing the things. This is something I found is people were taught something and it's so absurd that they say they don't believe it anymore or live it anymore, but it's incessantly in their head. their mom's voice, their grandma's voice, their teacher's voice, that ex-boyfriend or girlfriend or ex-lover's voice that said something that conditioned them to believe that they are wrong or bad and should be ashamed of who they are. So it's like an exorcism of all of the shame out of you so that you can choose your truth, your authenticity, and evolve into that. So that was a long answer to where did unabashed badassery come from?
It's perfect.
Yeah. I'm hearing when you said exorcism of shame, and I'm thinking like,
yeah. It is like it sounds really liberating and like cool. And it's hard. Like this work is not for the weary. Like not for the weak. It's for the wary, I would say. And see, that's a turn of phrase that we use. And I'm like, yeah, if you're weak, totally, this work is for you. Like if you feel weak and you want to be stronger. So I catch those things now that I've been doing this authentic evolution framework for a while. I'm like, why do we say that? And it's these like conditioned phrases. So anyway, it's a BFD. It's a big fucking deal. To reconcile. It's a reckoning. It's a reckoning with all of the things. Like a lot of us run around feeling like victims to our past, to our conditioning, to my mom, covering my eyes and my ear. Oh, woe is me. I can't have orgasms. It's my mom's fault. And we run around for years in that space, years and years and years. And this is your opportunity for that rite of passage into adulthood to become authentically who you were born to be, not who you were conditioned or programmed to be, but who you truly are, what actually lights you up and expands you. And it's magical. It's like tap into your magic.
I got a question for you real quick, because you mentioned coming to that realization of your mom with the hands or the ears. And you had a belief before of like, okay, like this is why I can't have orgasm right now because of that. How are you able to shift that to a new perspective about it?
That's a really good question. I think I'm a bit caught up on the question. I actually didn't realize that because my mom did that was why my body was wired to avoid orgasm. So my thoughts actually in those moments where I'm broken, I'm never going to orgasm. There's something wrong with me. And how did that shift? Honestly, I believe that the Erotic Blueprints is what opened that up. It was like I was given permission. Here's the deal about permission. I just said authentic evolution puts you in a place where you can choose and give yourself permission to live the life you were born to live instead of the script. And the thing is, sometimes in order to give ourselves permission, we need someone outside of us to be like, this is okay. You're still lovable. You'll be fine. You're not broken. You can do this. We need that from outside of us. So I feel like that's what the Erotic Blueprint course did. Like the woman on the screen, like gave vocabulary, perspective, changed my paradigm, opened me up to new possibilities, and made it not wrong. So I was made not wrong for not orgasming in stimuli that, you know what it did? It turned it around and made me go, oh, this stuff just isn't for me. It's wrong for me. Let me go find what's right for me.
Wow.
And then I could do that. And yes, wow. And what's coming up for me is I didn't give myself permission to I want to tell you real quick, the place where not real quick, let's be reverent. I want to tell you, my mom got diagnosed with ovarian cancer in 2010 and moved to the town that I lived in so that I could be her primary caregiver and patient advocate. So we had a lot of talks in those last 13 months of her life. And one of the talks was on her deathbed, like a day before she became mute and like 3 days before she died. And I was still in this place. This was 2010. I was still in this place of anorgasmia. And I had never had a talk about sex with my mom. And I was like, she's going to die. And I'm 28 and I'm 28. That's a lot of life to live, wondering what she would say if I were to ask her. So she can say no, she doesn't want to talk about it, but I don't want to disgrace my mom on her deathbed. But oh my God, it's going to be the rest of my life. That was a moment of unabashed badassery right there. Not going to people please, not going to enable, not going to placate. I'm going to let them make their choice, my mom in this case, and say yes or no. So I told her all that preamble and she's like, what is it? And I said, Mom, have you ever had an orgasm? And she took a huge deep breath. That's how I opened the first and only conversation with my mom about sex on her deathbed, breaths away from not being able to speak or move anymore. She takes a deep breath and looks around the room and like closes her eyes and like looks back at me and says, I don't know. And she's 58. And that conversation, we had a conversation. I said, what do you mean you don't know? And we talked. And the very end of that was the first piece of permission that I needed to go on this journey. And it was my mom saying to me, if I had it to do over again, Monica Jayne, I would be more open and adventurous sexually. Magic. Right there. It took me sometimes when we get permission to be ourselves, outside of ourselves, it doesn't happen instantaneously. It took me 2 or 2.5 years to finally start hiring people who do, what I do today, help people become erotically liberated and like get the help that I needed and to stop hiding behind the computer screen and the Google searches and all the books that I would buy and read the first 5 pages and set it down and never pick up again. It seemed insurmountable and unsolvable and unresolvable by myself. But my mom gave me that permission and I finally received it and gave it to myself 2.5 years later. And, the rest is like authentic evolution history, unabashed badassery.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I see a lot of facial expressions. I'm curious what's going on inside of there.
Yeah. One, that's amazing for you stepping in to yourself and asking that question and wondering and still going for it. Meaning like, oh, what if how's she going to receive it? Like you said, the people pleasing. And that's something that a lot of us can experience when we're ready to have that type of conversation authentically, because of what can happen if I step over the ledge and let's say the person says no. And I was just thinking of like all these different types of scenarios, not even just like interacting with a parent, let's say like even interacting with somebody you may have a crush on, or interacting on a date, or with your partner or whoever it may be, even at work, when there's opportunity for you to stand up and have that conversation to really get a truthful answer from it. Mm-hmm. And by you just doing that, and it unlocked so much for you.
Yeah, honestly, my mom, she's 58 with ovarian cancer. And if you look at the metaphysical meaning of that, it is repression and shame of creativity and sexual energy.
Wow. And
emotions. And so I was repressing my creativity. I was following the zombie robot path and that's, what? It was zombie robot for me. I have friends who went to the College of Business with me who love the American dream path, who love having the big houses and the brand new cars and the marriage and all the things you're supposed to have. They love it. It's a turn on and around for them. So I work with people that way. So your path to authentic evolution is yours exclusively. Just because those things weren't for me doesn't mean I'm going to tell you they're not for you. I don't have an agenda whatsoever. It's like, what is a turn on for you? And so I, again, lost my train of thought. Like, there are so many dots to connect in these conversations that I'm like,
while the train is coming back from the station, I want, and I know the same thing happens to me as well. But the one thing you just mentioned too is allowing people to honor people in their own journey, meaning just because what you call the zombie life, that's zombie life for you, but other people, they love it for right now. And just giving them permission, and it's for me because I've done it in my own life, giving people permission to do their own thing without trying to change them or say like it's wrong and it's other things, and allow them to just live authentically. It's like, for me, giving external permission, I'm giving internal permission for myself as well. Like, okay, let me honor my own journey as well.
Oh my gosh, I think you just pointed to something that is probably the reason why I do, like one of the reasons and vitamins of doing this work that I do is by continuously giving and seeing them give themselves permission. It's like it's super powerful. It's one of the things that Christianity and patriarchy and colonialism wants us to avoid, is that power of that we feed each other, when like, I give me permission and it gives you permission, and then your permission to you gives me permission, and then we become more and more powerful and unique and expressed and outside the box and non-conforming.
Yeah.
So it's like my daily vitamins to do this work with others, because oh my gosh, I had 3 client sessions last week, and I was like, in every single one, I told all of them, you're really helping me in my life right now, because I'm going through some shit. I'm going through some reckonings right now, huge ones. And it's like so grueling. And then I'm sitting there with my clients and I'm like, oh, wow, like I'm not the only one. And that's one of the things about the coaching industry. I'm going to go on a little soapbox for a sec. Being the authority and expert is like, how, like, if I as a coach take a marketing class or a how to get business from speaking gigs or whatever, these classes, they teach you to like put yourself on a freaking pedestal and be the authority and the expert on things. And it's like Ram Dass said, we're just all walking each other home. And maybe I'm 10 steps ahead of one client, 3 steps ahead of another, 5 steps behind them in some aspects. But they come to me because I'm steps ahead in the aspects they want help with. Mm-hmm. And so this like hierarchical authority expert stuff is just gross to me. And that's why, yeah, that's where I come from. And that's why I don't know what's best for you. All I do is sit and hold space, and hold immaculate space for your magic to appear, your path and your truth to come through, whatever it may be, regardless if it's for me.
Yeah. And it takes so much pressure off for you as well, because like that hierarchy type of thing, I mean, I could pass it for him because I've done that before, like trying to be that person. But then I realized, like, wait, if I'm like perceive this person, then I gotta figure this thing out for this person. When like we just allow them to be and realize that you guys are on equal levels. And like you said, there's some things that they are superior in, like amazing in compared to you, and then vice versa. But we just allow that conversation to flow. Mm-hmm. It's so much alleviating, but then like so much magic happens because the infinite now is in the place.
Yeah, you're actually pointing to something else that's like a little racy to talk about these days. It's like the concept of perfectionism and better than that comes from white supremacy. And when you're the authority of something, like you have to be perfect, like you said, and there's so much pressure. And that's part of like exercising the shame from our bodies. And the unabashed badassery is like, I don't have to be perfect. I don't have to be the best at things. I have clients right now that I am so jealous of. This one married couple in particular. I'm like, how the fuck is your relationship this magical right now and mine is not? Like, what is going on here? oh, you have an amazing coach. Like, I don't have a coach for my relationship right now. Maybe I should get one. And then I did. And so we'll see where it goes. But that's another thing, is we think we have to do everything ourselves, and we should know. That's one of the concepts that I bring up in my coaching quite often, is like, you learn something, you learn a new concept and with sexuality, relationships, and communication, and you're supposed to immediately get it. Like, you learn this communication tool and it's supposed to like resolve all your issues forever. And because that's what the stupid article said, because that's how self-development is delivered. Do this and never again will you be a human being and have to deal with human stuff. It's like, no, that's bullshit. So yeah, let's excuse ourselves from having to be experts and authorities, because like that is a fallacy given to us by the separation, all the way back to the separation of God from human, from magic from humans. Like, you're not magic.
Yeah, I'm always worried for those type of things. Do this and then this will happen, or this or this. And it's like, what about that in between spot? Because we're all on our own different journey. It's like, do this program and you have 6-pack abs when you're done working out. No, it's a process.
Yeah, totally.
There's a question too that says, who is a person cited for the recognition of Christianity separating humans from God?
Okay, so this isn't the human that says that's what happened, but Alok, I think they're asking Alok. Let me look on Instagram really quick, because there is a last name, but it's not Alok's full last name, so it's a bit confusing. It's ALOK, V as in Victor, M as in Monica Jayne, E as in eagle, N as in Nancy, O as in octopus, N as in Nancy. So Alok, V-M-E-N-O-N. And they are they are an activist for social justice, specifically in the realms of gender identity, relationship, and sexual orientation. Yeah, it's really big. Oh, cool. I got the question. Yay. You're welcome. Oh, yeah. Thank you for paying attention to the questions in the thread, Kaí. I really appreciate you bringing that here, because like, for me, there's nothing. Well, there's lots of worse things, but here's that turn of phrase. There's nothing worse than being, like enthralled by a discussion happening and not being listened to and not getting my questions answered. So thanks for having their backs.
Oh, yeah. Acknowledgement is a powerful tool, because when any of us are acknowledged, it allows us to open up even more and express ourselves.
Yeah. Yes. I love... Dell, we need to collaborate, because you keep saying things that are connecting dots for me, because I've wondered, like, why is this authentic evolution process so profound for people? Because it's really obvious. You look at what you were taught. You look at how often it affects your thoughts and behaviors. You ask yourself, would I have come up with this myself? You rewrite the things that you wouldn't have. You let yourself choose that you're going to do these things. You give yourself permission, and then you act on it. Like, it's so simple, but so profound. And what you just said is a key ingredient of it. Why it's so profound is acknowledgement. The authentic evolution process and framework gives you an opportunity to acknowledge you for being you. Acknowledgement that you may have never been given in your entire life by anyone, because no one holds this kind of space for their kids. Like, we don't intentionally not, but it wasn't held for us. So like, why would we hold it for, the generations that come after us? We don't know to.
Yeah.
Yes. Acknowledgement. Huge.
Yeah. We're only doing what we've been taught to do until we start challenging what we've been taught to do. And then that's when we can shift what we're doing.
Yeah.
It all just takes that acknowledgement and seeing that, because we all have moments in our life that we will like to authentically express ourselves from those times that we were told not to, or it was wrong or shameful. And it's having more of these moments is powerful for us.
Yeah. And unfortunately, a lot of the things that we're acknowledged for are actually like negative things, like you're always this way, or don't do this, or don't do that, or we're acknowledged for being perfect. Oh my gosh, you're on the honor roll, amazing. And then we put ourselves in that authority position of always having to make the honor roll and things like this. So it's like, what are we acknowledging each other for? And are they the things that like actually matter and feed and thrive our authenticity and our magic? Or are they, bullshit things that we don't need to be paying attention to? Yeah. I love this comment. Talk about it and then shift what we were taught to what we teach and share with others. Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Because at the end of the day, we're sharing something with others. The question is what and from where.
Yeah. And this this reckoning is like I thought my major in college was going to be accounting because I took a bookkeeping class in high school, and the teacher acknowledged me for being super smart and quick at bookkeeping. So that meant that I needed a major in accounting. So that was a tangent about the word reconciliation. There's a lot of reconciling in accounting. What we're doing in authentic evolution is an inventory and reconciliation of all of the things that we were taught, and acknowledging, do we actually believe this, or are we just robot zombieing around because that's what got us loved when we were a kid? Do I want to be loved for something that I'm not?
Yeah.
No, actually, I don't. Oof, that's scary. Oh my God. To not please them anymore in that way, to ruffle feathers and rock the boat. And that's where that's where having someone who has your back. One of my main signatures on my emails is, you've got this and I've got your back. And that's where, like, I want the people listening, if you're going to go do a reconciliation and take an inventory of all of this, make sure you have someone, you first and foremost have your back, and that you have others who do. And that could be friends, that could be, but see, like, everybody comes with their lenses and filters. So you got to be careful. You got to be careful about who's having your back. Do they have an agenda or do they not? Like, are they prescribing you stuff like society, culture, and religion and family do? Or are they like totally open and allowing you to evolve authentically as you, with no agenda or influence? And that's the space that I strive and succeed at holding for people. And wrapping back to the erotic blueprints, part of that, the reason why I'm able to do that so well is because I am a shapeshifter, which means all the possibilities and all the things are enthralling and amazing and so cool and wondrous and magical. Oh my God, what do you want? What do you want? Who are you? I want to see it all. So shapeshifters are really amazing permission bearers. They're also in their shadow the hardest on themselves for being too big, too much, too magical, and that they dumb their lights down a lot when they're in shadow. So it's something to be aware of. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. Somebody else.
Yeah, there's a thank you. Beautiful. Yeah.
Wow, it's already been an hour.
Yeah, Kaí, I'm like, Kaí, you saw some magic in me, some unabashed badassery in me, and asked, that I come hang out with y'all. And I just really want to thank you. Thank you for seeing that. It kind of wraps to one of your first questions of like, how do you impact the world? It's like, well, I just be myself. And then people are like, oh, look at this person, look at this unicorn. And when we all do that, we bring out the unicorn in everybody else. Yeah. So thank you for seeing that in me and inviting me to come hang out with you.
Yeah, this was great. And there goes the unicorn.
That's so fun. I love it. If I were, so I don't know if I mentioned while we were live that I'm not in my own environment. If we were sitting at my house, there would be a bunch of unicorns behind me instead of penises and vulvas. Actually, there are
I didn't
vulvas
even know.
behind me at home.
I did not even know those were penises and vulvas.
Well, it's speaking of a 6-pack. There it is.
It reminded me of. Did you watch the movie Superbad?
Yeah.
So remember when he got in trouble because he drew penises
Kind of
as a kid, like all the different ways of drawing them?
Yeah. It's one of those absurdly hilarious movies.
That was pretty funny. Because it's like, I got in trouble and they made me to stop. They told me I got to stop eating things shaped as penises. You know what foods are shaped as penises? All the good ones.
So good. Oh, so good. See, that's another thing, like these absurdly silly movies and stuff, like they're not serious enough and they get like discounted, but like that silliness is something that's so important. But like society, depending on your culture and your religion and your family, you get, conditioned to believe that that's just silly pants and not serious or significant enough or whatever. So yeah, I'm really happy that you brought that in.
Oh yeah,
I love the silly, absurd movies.
Yeah, I love the silly.
So at this point, we usually ask if there was one thing that a person could walk away from this conversation with. What would you advise that would be?
I think it's going to come back to permission. That seemed really big today. It seems alive and up. And actually, I recently was told by a mentor that feminine integrity is moving with what is true right now, not what has been spoken. So permission to move with what is true for you right now, because authentic evolution is you evolving in each moment to be true to yourself in that moment. And our world has been overrun by masculine integrity, being a person of and following through and what if it's not true anymore, And we all can harness and hone masculine and feminine energy. We all have both. It's not a man-woman war or anything like this. It's like, how can we be in integrity to what is true to us right now and give ourselves permission to follow through on that, no matter how scary it might be and how many feathers we might ruffle. Our minds like to tell us that we're like, our lives are in danger. They're very dramatic, these brains of ours. And sometimes our lives are. It's very true. And with certain cultures, if women want to be a certain way or wear certain things, they will be killed or punished brutally. So I'm not discounting that. Let's back out from that. When and where you can give yourself permission and you and others' lives are not in danger, do it. And do it with regard to what is true for you right now. And right now. Oh, and right now. Oh, and with that person, which it might be different with this other person. And maybe this other, influence or context. Give yourself permission to be true to you no matter the context you're in.
Yeah. 100%.
I love your giggle, Kaí.
Thank you. Thank you.
Little sprinkles of glitter every time you giggle.
Unicorn alert. Aw, thanks.
It's the best.
All right, it's that time. It's such a good conversation.
Yeah.
And I'm speaking for us, we invite you back if you'd love to come and extend the conversation with your new revelations and what's newly true to you in that moment.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I would love to. And if people want to reach out to me, you're totally invited to my DMs on social media. Since this is broadcast on Facebook, go ahead and go to my profile and DM me there. If you're listening to this afterward, the end of my Facebook URL is monica.jayne.me, monica.jayne.me. And then on Instagram, it's I am Monica Jayne, and Jayne has a Y in it, Jayne. And yeah, the DMs are the place to make contact.
Thank you for giving us permission to slip in there.
Yeah, I hope you give yourself permission to.
Goes down in the DM. And yeah, wherever you guys see this at, this will be available on YouTube and on iTunes. Wherever you see this and it impacted you, leave a like, a comment, share this with one other person, because the more we can share magical conversation like this with more people, the more collectively we can cultivate together. Mm-hmm. And of course, Monica Jayne's contact information would be in the descriptions for everyone as well.
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I want to leave a little teaser that if people send me a message, I'll send you a link to a quiz to learn your erotic blueprint. Ooh. And then maybe it can be as exercising of shame and liberating as the course was for me, or at least start you off on that journey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whew. Your DM's going to be blowing up now.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And?
Oh, stay magical.